Nothing's ever easy with cars, you know? So, I know I've been gone for a little bit. I've been being a mechanic on diesel trucks. But I finally have some motivation to work on my car. I want to drive my car. Um, it's summertime. I've got tons of tires. I've got this sweet turbo E36, and I just want to drive it. Yeah, driving this thing, getting 42 miles to the gallon's great and all, but I built this because I want to drive it. So this is where we're at. The last drift event, my alternator failed. I decided to be a dum dum and drive through the failing of said alternator. It got me through the whole drift event. However, on my way home, it I made it 30 minutes into the 50-minute drive and got stranded in a parking lot. Right? Super unfortunate. It is what it is. I still had fun drifting, right? So I buy a new alternator. I go through all of the wiring because when my alternator was failing, part of the time that it was failing, it sent 19 volts through the system. And that was early in the day, but I kept driving and it stopped doing the 19 volts thing very quickly and dropped right back down to like 12.5, which is where I drove it for the whole day. So there was a spike of voltage that went through the system, right? I that spike of voltage caused some wiring to melt. That melted wiring caused a shorting of some wires, and the shorting of said wires caused an electrical fire. I don't know if the electrical fire killed the car or if I drove through the electrical fire. But I never saw any smoke. I didn't put any fire out. I didn't do anything like that. But I put the new alternator in. I fixed all of the melted wires. I put everything back to how it's supposed to be. I started the car. I fixed anything that was melted, and the car runs and idles perfectly fine, right? When I tried to boost or, put the car under load, it misfires. I have, it's not the factory ECU. It's a standalone ECU. So I have no way of seeing which cylinder is misfiring. I put all new spark plugs in. I put all new coil packs in. I ohmed out all of the coil packs that I have. All of them test good. Everything mechanically tests fine. Electrically, I was able to wiggle some connectors and get the car to misfire, but the amount of wiggling that I'm doing versus the amount they're moving when the car is running and driving it's drastically different. I'm moving them much more than they ever could move without outside help. So I don't think it's an electrical connection problem. So what I came here today to do, one, I was going to do a compression test, but the more I think about it, the less I feel like it's a compression problem and more of an electrical problem, seeing as the last thing that I did was an electrical issue. But on top of that, I'm also not seeing any smoke out of the tailpipe, and I'm not getting any sort of blow by. So nothing's being burnt and nothing is blowing by the rings. So I don't think it's a compression problem, if that makes sense. Obviously it still could be, but I'm really saving that for last. So my goal for today was to check the sensors, check the health of the sensors, see what the computer is saying about the sensors, because maybe it's possible that I fried some of the sensors, like the coolant temp sensor, the throttle position sensor, the map sensor, which is internal inside the ECU, and the intake air temp sensor, the cam sensor, the crank sensor. There's a few different sensors that, obviously they deal with electricity and voltage. So there's a few different things that could have caused a problem, or that the alternator failing could have caused a problem for. So my goal for today was I downloaded the ECU Master software, and my goal for today was to look in the sensors and see what the sensors are reading. Because if it's just sitting here at idle or without the car running and one of these sensors is maxed out either one way or the other, I know that there's an issue with that sensor, and I can replace that sensor and we'll be good. Or, since the problem is not happening at idle and it's only happening under load, I can log, and I can log all these different things. Just to see what the sensors are doing while the car is running. So this is where I'm stuck, right? So I connect this to the computer, and it says the last USB device you connected to this computer malfunctioned and Windows does not recognize it. What? And then I say, oh, well, maybe it's because it's not on, right? But I go key on and nothing changes. So I cannot get the ECU to connect to this computer. And I can try this USB port. Same thing. This USB port. Same thing. All three of the USB ports. None of them will connect. So I'm kind of at a loss, because without being able to get into the computer, I can't see what the computer is doing to cause the misfire. Or I can't see what is happening in the ECU that is causing the misfire, because I should be able to look at this map sensor, throttle position, intake air temp, and coolant, and try to figure out what is going on in here, which one's not reading properly, and which one is causing the car to misfire under load. But I can't get it to connect to the PC, so I'm not sure if I have an actual issue with my standalone, or if there's an issue with the PC and the software. So So I guess I have to do a little bit of research to try and figure that out, because if I can't connect to the ECU, then I'm never going to be able to figure out the problem. But also, not being able to connect to the ECU, that's kind of pointing me to the direction of I might have fried the ECU. So I think what I need to do is, one, I need to reach out to my friend that I know who does his own tuning. Maybe I can drive the car over there and see if he's able to get his computer to connect. Because if he can get his computer to connect, then I know that it's a problem with my computer itself. But if he also can't get his computer to connect, then I know that it's an issue with my car. Unfortunately, it's starting to rain, so that's kind of gonna do it for me for the day. Actually, man, this sucks. If the ECU is not able to do anything, if the ECU is bricked or something like that, that could potentially be my problem. It's just weird that it runs and idles perfectly fine. You know what I mean? Kind of frustrating, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this cover off, and while I'm here hanging out trying to figure out the answers, I'm going to refinish this cover, because not only do I have the stuff to refinish the cover and get rid of this ugly rust, I also got the S52 covers for this, so I'm actually going to be able to put the covers on this and have the motor looking mint. Well, I tried one more thing. I looked up online possible reasons why my EMU black wouldn't connect to the EC or to the PC that I'm using. There's 3 reasons why it wouldn't connect. First reason, the EMU is not getting power. Well, it runs the car, so it's clearly getting power. Second reason is you don't have the proper drivers installed, the USB drivers installed on the computer to read the EMU black. So I downloaded the drivers from the ECU master website onto that computer. Still no luck. And the third reason why it would not connect with the ECU is a bad wire. So I need to get another wire, because that wire is possibly damaged, which makes sense. It's 7 years old. Of course it could possibly be damaged. So I'm going to order a new wire for my ECU. And in the meantime, I can also try to see if I can just drive the car over to somebody and see if they can connect to it. Because if they can connect their computer to another car, it should be able to connect fine to my car, so long as my ECU is not damaged. But we shall see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's just the wire, and I can, check, and I can get a wire and just make sure that it's good. But I don't know. This thing is really starting to frustrate me. My car has not been down for this long, since I did the turbo kit. Even when I crashed the car into a wall, it was only down for 4 weeks. When I went from the purple chassis to the black chassis, it was only down for 3 weeks. And now, with the alternator nonsense and the wiring nonsense, it has been down for going on 2 months. So the last time I drove it was May 16th, and today is the 4th of July. So it hurts that it's been down for this long, but it's been pretty nice driving that thing, getting 40 miles to the gallon. So yeah, it sucks. I want to drive the car, but it'll just be that much better when I get to drive it. You know what I mean? So I guess if I can't figure out the ECU, I'm just going to go ahead and do like I said I was going to do. I'm going to put a couple strips of heat tape on here to protect the coil wires. And then I'm going to put some of the heat reflective gold tape here to help reflect any heat this way, away from the coil pack wires. Because that's what I thought my problem was. I thought, maybe I melted through those wires. Maybe, there's some more melted wires somewhere, but everything is checking out. So I'm honestly at a loss. If I bricked my ECU because I wanted to have fun drifting, I'm going to be so sad. But at the same time, I wanted to make a new harness for it anyways. So if I have to buy a new ECU and make a new harness, it's not the end of the world. It just means I probably won't be drifting much more this season. Oh well. Let's get into making this cover. Check it out. I had made this heat shield because because plastic valve cover, turbo, you don't want all that heat to melt all of the stuff, right? So I cut the cover in half and replaced the bottom half of the cover with a sheet of metal. I riveted it on. Now, I know the heat may take an effect on the glue and may make it lift prematurely. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rivets in right now. But what I'm going to do is add 1, 2, 3 more. But these 3 are going to be on top of the tape here so that, hopefully it doesn't lift up. And for the bottom of it, it's all wrapped around underneath. So ideally, it won't, peel up. I did get the M3 covers or S52 covers for the cover here. As you can see, they're brand new and the cover is dirty. So I gotta try to I gotta try and match those somehow, either cleaning the cover or dirtying the new clips. But this came out pretty good. So it's got this sheet of gold on top to reflect any heat away. And then on the bottom side, God, I'm just dropping everything. And then on the bottom side, you can see it's more metal tape or aluminum tape, whatever you want to call it. And there is 3 rows of exhaust heat wrap underneath here. So not only is the gold reflecting heat away, but any heat that does get through can be absorbed by this wrap, or at least, be blocked away. Knowing that any sort of glue or anything in here is probably going to fail, I went kind of heavy on the tape. I started with taping the heat wrap to the shield, to the metal shield, and then proceeded to tape the tape to itself, because it doesn't really, as you can see, it sticks to the wrap, but it doesn't really stick to the wrap all that well. So I did the wrap first, I taped it down, and then I did the gold on the outside of it, and I wrapped it around the sides and then wrapped it around this way. I put more tape down on top to hold those down. So it should, it's all wrapped around. So it should be, oh, I'm just dropping everything. It should be fairly reflective, and it should fairly heat reflective, and it should hold up pretty well to the environment that it's going to be in. You can see that there is the metal tape underneath. I didn't care as much about that as I did this, and I think this came out actually really well. I'm actually pretty happy with this. So, I mean, I'm happy I did this, but car's still not drivable, so that is kind of annoying. Just gonna leave that here for now, but that's really gonna do it for today. I don't really have anything else that I plan on doing. I need to get into the ECU. That's really the main thing. I need to get into the ECU of that car to see what the ECU is reading. If the ECU is reading good, all of the sensors are reading as they should, then I know that it's a hardware issue. But if not, then I know that it is an issue with one of the sensors or something along those lines. Kind of a disappointing evening, but at least I got that cover made finally, because that it was looking pretty rough in there. So that's gonna do it for this one. I hope you all had a nice holiday. I hope you all got to spend lots of time with your friends and family. I still got to come back to try and figure this thing out. You gotta love cars. All right. Peace out, guys.